The hometown kid becomes the hometown hero. J.J. McCarthy, a dagger to ice the game. Vikings, huge upset in Detroit over the Lions, 27-24. Luke in here at Luke_Spinman. Got all your instant reaction you can handle coming up next. But first, let's meet the crew.
I'm Sam Ekstrom. Glad to be on the Squad Show, and I'm going to tell you today why the linebackers deserve all the game balls.
Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings. Okay, are we sure we don't want to talk about Max Brosmer anymore?
Ron Johnson, Gophers NFL wide receiver. And yeah, we can put Max Brosmer to bed. But hey, Michigan, Minnesota. I think Minnesota owns Michigan this week.
Skol! It's the Viking Squad. Everything Minnesota Vikings every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the land of 10,000 lakes. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. It's time to gear up. The Viking Squad Show starts now.
What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another Viking Squad Show. 60 minutes of instant reaction deep dive, including J.J. McCarthy's first day at the office. That ended on a high note, plus the biggest turning point in this one and our game MVP. Before we get into it, make sure you like and subscribe. Keep up with all the action. And make sure to check out this guy right here, Luke Braun, over on Locked On Vikings each and every day. Ron, you're batting leadoff like Shohei Ohtani, and this one kind of had everything, kind of like Game 7 last night. So much to get into. But first things first, I'm thinking back, Vikings coming off this 37-10 beatdown in LA last Thursday, and now the pressure was kind of on against the Lions, right? Like kind of do or die time to step up kind of at the midway point in the season. In Detroit, where KOC, by the way, had never won. As you watch this thing unfold, Ron, how massive was this victory for this team? And then also, I guess, what's the top thing that just kept really sticking out the most as, again, we kind of enter this do or die point in the season?
Well, I mean, we do an episode on the pregame show called Sink or Sell. It's gotten kind of big on social media, and I was 3 for 1. I said that the Vikings defense could keep them under 31 points. Everybody else said that they wouldn't. I was the only one that said they would. I said that J.J. McCarthy would have more touchdowns than interceptions. Few people didn't believe in that. Ben Lieber being one of them. I was right there. And then the other one, I said this game was going to be a one-score game. Nobody else thought it was going to be a one-score game except for who? This guy who has 2 thumbs and believed there's going to be a one-score game. This guy. The only thing, and we all were wrong on this, we thought that Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery would have combined 1 touchdown each. Who would have put the Vikings on keeping David Montgomery out of the end zone Jahmyr Gibbs, I think. Or which one scored? I can't remember which one. I'm drawing a blank.
Montgomery scored. Gibbs did not.
Keeping Jahmyr Gibbs out of the end zone, because he had been electric. He had absolutely murdered the Minnesota Vikings when you think about some of the big plays. All season, he was having explosive plays. And the Vikings did exactly what they're supposed to do, which is tackle. If you tackle these guys and get it going, you will be able to stop a lot of this. And they were able to do it.
Yeah, Braun. Go ahead.
Yeah, certainly far from a perfect game in that regard, in a lot of these regards. But like the story of the game is, McCarthy scores 3 times, ices the game with this beautiful fade ball to Jalen Nailor, a little aggressive. And it kind of covers up that, hey, that interception was behind him. There were a couple other throws that weren't great, maybe some communication issues. It kind of papers all that over because you got to, notch a win and then go back and try to fix that stuff. And I think it's the same. They missed a ton of tackles in this game, but they made just enough to stop it from becoming, explosive runaway 70-yard touchdowns from Jahmyr Gibbs, which is what's happened to them in that building since the pandemic. I mean, it's been happening since before Kwesi and O'Connell even got here, is that those guys have been slicing and dicing the defense down the field. It is a very cathartic, and it really turns the vibe of the season around quite a bit, where now the question of who is J.J. McCarthy, for some people, it felt like they thought they had the answer. And for those people, it's going to be really hard to square that answer with what happened today, and that's exactly what the Vikings needed.
Sam, I told you going into this game, the Vikings would put up 27 points, no defensive touchdowns, no special teams touchdowns, and J.J. McCarthy would be held to 143 yards, and they'd win the game. I mean, you would have said what?
Yeah, I guess you took the ball away a few times, maybe, and you ran it back to the 20-yard line or something. Kind of what they did. Had a couple short fields in this game. As much as people in the chat want us to apologize for JJ McCarthy, plenty of time to get into that. I think the bigger apology might belong to Brian Flores saying that you can't blitz this quarterback successfully, because that's what I was saying all week. That's a lot of people were saying all week, that Jared Goff was going to carve you up if you tried to do the same thing to him that you tried to do to Goff last year, that you tried to do to Justin Herbert last Thursday. The blitz today was relentless. It was unbelievably successful. And not only did it get to Jared Goff, I think 5 times, but it wore down the Lions running backs.
A lot of one-hoppers.
All of them were linebackers up the middle, forcing Montgomery, forcing Gibbs to pass protect. And did it not look like they lacked a little explosiveness in this game? They worked so hard to keep those guys away from Jared Goff, who is not that mobile of a quarterback, and the pocket collapsed on him a handful of times because those running backs couldn't hold up. Brian Flores is blitzing. I got to eat crow on this one. Absolutely a factor in this game that swung it in the Vikings' favor. At one point, they had 4 consecutive 3-and-outs. The Lions didn't have 3 consecutive 3-and-outs since like 2023. Insanely successful defensive effort, and that's what I'm thinking about the most, is how polished the defense looked, despite giving up 24. I mean, the Lions are going to score on you, but that's the best job Flores has done against them in his 5 meetings.
Yeah, Ron, thoughts on that? Again, pass rush was relentless. Jared Goff pressured on over 50% of his dropbacks. But for me, take it a step further. You got to stop the run to get in those 3rd and long situations and make Jared Goff drop back. 65 total rushing yards for the Lions today. Jahmyr Gibbs, 28 total yards, 25 on the ground. Talk to me about Brian Flores' defense, just to add on to what Sam said, but not just the pass rush, but stopping the run first and foremost for once.
I want to make sure you guys can still hear me, right?
Yeah, we got
okay,
you.
Make sure. So the one thing about Brian Flores, and I think Sam said it. Yeah, Sam, you owe him an apology. Feel free to I think it's 2,600 Vikings drive or something like that. You can look it up. You can get the address. You can get a nice little card, maybe an edible arrangement, some chocolate covered strawberries. But yeah, you know what? And Ben Lieber said this on the post game interview with Eric Wilson. The biggest thing I noticed is on a couple of those plays, like if you watch Harrison Smith, they are getting out of there at the very last minute. Like they were not giving Jared Goff any idea of who was dropping and who was coming. They were trying to hold it. If you go back to last year, watch Josh Metellus. It looked like they were getting nervous and when they should bail, when they should go. Like they were very decisive today. But again, let's be real. Javon Hargrave, like Tom Brady, I don't know why he didn't want to give credit to Javon Hargrave and he didn't want to give credit to Jalen Redmond. He kept saying like, oh, that was just a blown assignment. There was no communication. No, that was one man running through 2 men saying, get out of my way, little boy. I mean, that defense was absolutely getting after Jared Goff. And the key was a lot of those, I mean, think about a lot of those one-arm tackles. Last year, I felt like Jared Goff would have got out of that throwing a 60-yard bomb. They were actually, when they had that, like, and you probably saw the close-up a couple times, when his arm was like this, they did this to pull. They weren't losing grips on him. They were holding on to him. They were getting him down. Even the one that Grenard missed, oh, my God, he's going to watch that back and be like, oh, I don't know how I didn't get him down on that sack. So there was some actually missed sacks that Jared Goff was able to get away. But I got to give it to the defensive line. Like, we were questioning, where's Javon Hargrave? They paid him all this money. Even on the pregame show we talked about, we were like, man, all this money, and they're stopping the pass sometimes, but not really stopping the run. They did it all. They bought the physicality. They were hitting. And, again, I think it's the pre-snap. They were not moving enough to give Jared Goff an idea of what was coming. And so he couldn't tell if Harrison Smith was going to come, if Josh Metellus was going to come, if Eric Wilson was coming. And I think that's the key to this. Like, you cannot move up until the very last minute when you know he's about to snap the ball.
There's a kind of an underrated part of that too, that like Brady even like pointed out the difference between Montgomery in pass pro and Gibbs in pass pro and one of the sacks that Eric Wilson got. And that encourages the Lions to take Gibbs off the field. And I think that offense is a lot better with Gibbs on it. And like, that's one of those things, just doing that, the cross dog, good call, PhD in the chat, the cross dog blitzes, those just linebacker twists that are meant to attack that running back. if you're going to basically tell the Lions, no, your running back needs to be in protection every single one of these plays, they're not going to put the smaller guy out there, and then suddenly the run game gets easier to stop, and it all kind of like cascades out from there. And it's got to be cathartic for Flores, who has struggled with this Lions offense so much, to get a win on Ben Johnson earlier in the year and then a win on the Lions here and just say, you know what, all that narrative, all those streaks, broken, fresh slate.
But one thing about the cross dog too on that, Luke, the second guy is the key, though. He cannot get held up by that center or that guard, and they were doing a great job of that. And the first guy can't be selfish. You have to run through the face of that running back and say, I know I'm just taking you out of here for my guy to get here second. And they were doing that too. There was no selfish play out there. Like a lot of times you see guys get selfish and they try to do like the Ole the running back, and then they get held up or they're in the way of the next guy coming. They were just running. I mean, they brought the physicality. They were running through the running back's face. They were like, look, you better buckle up your chin strap and pump it up because we are coming. And they hit him hard every time. Like they were like, look, you're going to stand in here. I'm going to run through your face. And that was the key to this. Like you have to bring the physicality to that Dan Campbell defense. And I mean, honestly, if you looked at that offensive line sometimes and the running backs when they were going off and they had to punt, they were defeated. Like they did not feel like they normally feel after they and again, I loved my tweet. If you guys saw it, the premature belt to butt celebration that Montgomery did after he scored the first touchdown, tied by the way, 14-14, and he had only had 10 yards rushing. That's not a belt to butt type of whooping. Like, oh yeah, he had the belt to butt. So I tweeted it right away. I was like, this is a little premature to be doing the spanking. Like you guys are killing the Vikings. Like, bro, you are not even out rushing JJ McCarthy at this point. So it just came back and bit him. Like he never got going after that.
Flores exercises some demons today. KOC exercises some demons as well. Sam, just on the same topic here, this defense, you know, we bang the table. Gosh, we need Cashman back to help this run game. How about Andrew Van Ginkel coming back? Only one guy, and I know you're going to look at the box score tomorrow and say, okay, one tackle for loss, one quarterback hit. That's nice. But between getting guys like Hargrave, starting to get a little bit more of your money's worth today, and then getting a guy like Van Ginkel, today it just kind of felt like what we all expected this defense would look like at the beginning of the season going into week one.
Yeah. Even though Van Ginkel wasn't necessarily the one who was getting in the backfield every time, you felt his presence out there. He had, I think, one pass deflection. He had one pressure. We've got pressure numbers in already, which is kind of nice. Eric Wilson and Jonathan Allen, co-leaders with 5. Jonathan Grenard with 4. Blake Cashman with 3, Javon Hargrave with 3. So you've got some interior defensive linemen, you got some edge rushers, you've got some inside linebackers, all involved in a total of 25 pressures on Jared Goff. It was an aggressive and relentless attack. It didn't matter. Like if it was, there were a number of moments where it was 3rd and 17. They had him in 3rd and long a lot today. And they did not back up into some sort of shell because I think they recognized that any 3rd down, the Lions are trying to set up a manageable 4th down. Like you need to keep pushing them backward. You cannot allow any soft yards. You need to make their lives miserable. And sometimes, you know, like defensive coaches they'll hit the throttle down and they'll blitz for a bit, then back it off. And it felt like the throttle was just down from the beginning today, almost as if Brian Flores said, you want me to blitz less? You know what? I'm going to blitz more. I'm going to find a way to blitz more. And I'm going to, in real time here, just try to get the total blitz numbers because it's going to be insane. 62% today. I mean, well over season average. And Jared Goff, when he was blitzed, you know, he handled it decently, but he took a number of sacks, took 3 sacks when he got blitzed today. So really, really impressed by that group, that front 7. And, you know, I thought the secondary was fine, but it didn't matter. The front 7 was that dominant.
Yeah, and not just getting pressure, but the interior pressure. We all know that's how you beat a pure pocket passer like Jared Goff. Lots more to get into. I want to ask you guys about JJ McCarthy's day, plus the biggest turning point. That's all coming up right after this.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it because it also helps you correct your form in real time and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Ron, before we get into the biggest turning point, I want to ask you about JJ McCarthy's day. 14 for 25, buck 43 through the air, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 9 carries for 12 yards as well. Some ups. I mean, he started this game hot, man. Led this team down for 2 straight touchdown drives, one to Justin Jefferson, one to TJ Hawkinson. But some ups, some downs that we'll get into. But kind of at the end of the day, I just thought to myself, he's still that guy that we saw at Michigan, just finds a way to win. What was your thoughts on the final throw to ice the game to Jalen Nailor, and then just kind of big picture view his day as a whole?
Well, first, I was kind of disappointed, when I saw him on the field, and then I saw the gritty. I was disappointed. Like the gritty, like I thought with all this time off. I mean, I know he has a bad ankle, so maybe he hasn't been able to practice the gritty as much, but very poor performance on the gritty. But other than that, Luke, you talked about the running yards. Don't forget about the touchdown. Like that was one of the biggest plays he made with his legs. And I think that's the thing that KLC was missing when you look at Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz can run, but not with that athletic ability. If you were to throw in a healthy Carson Wentz out against this Lions team, I think they lose that game. Like I don't think that the escapability of JJ McCarthy, his ability to extend the play. And again, I want to apologize for just being down on what we felt the last 2 games. And then you go on to say, okay, Carson Wentz is out, JJ McCarthy's in. We haven't seen much from JJ McCarthy. I don't think we all knew, or me for sure. I didn't know what we were going to get today. Now, again, 145 is not like, let's write home to mother about that. Like that there is a basic Michigan win. Like that is your run game is working. You just don't turn the ball over. And again, those 3 throws, actually, Tom Brady pointed out, like, he has to get his hand over the ball. So when he throws it, it has like a little of a 2. He was talking about the 1, the 2, and the 3, using a 5 iron versus a 9 iron and all that. Like he needs a lob wedge. Like he has to figure out how to like get it right over that sand wedge throw. And those are the throws to me that, we can nitpick because he won. Those are ones that he's going to look back and say, man, I probably wouldn't have even had an interception if I had thrown it in front of Jalen Nailor. I would have had another completion if I threw it in front of Jalen Nailor. Justin Jefferson, another completion if I just kind of dip it over, set my feet, because he didn't have to throw off platform. There was nobody coming. I don't know if he felt like he had a rush coming. He could have set his feet really quick, boom, and just threw it over the flat defender, and Justin Jefferson was right there wide open. So a little of those throws to me were like, okay, that's just lack of reps. That's lack of being out on the field. That's lack of full speed gameplay. Other than that, the other stuff, the Jalen Nailor one you're talking about right there, I did it on the pregame show. The Lions in tough situations and in the red zone, they're about 85% man coverage. They are going to give you as much man as possible because they want to get after the quarterback. JJ McCarthy knew that. He had that route, like the Jordan Addison corner route. We said that against the Bears. If he throws that corner route to Nailor against the Bears, you don't have the pick 6. Again, that's him learning. The corner route is open. If everybody's coming and his man coverage, let me take the corner route. And he did that. The back shoulder throw, the Nailor, same thing. He cannot get over the top because the DB is running. Let me put it to where only my guy can get it and make it soft enough that he can just turn, make the catch, and win this game. So I think that was very headsy. I think that was a huge play. And I'm hoping that a little bit of it was Kevin O'Connell, but more of it was like, hey, here's your options. If he has them beat and that pick works, throw it long. If he does it, if that pick is not clean, because you don't want to get a flag, because I'm pretty sure the Lions defense was saying, hey, they're in a bunch set, watch for the picks, because there's a flag coming. They were finding any way to give the Lions this game back. And JJ McCarthy makes that throw. All the receivers kind of stood there. Nobody wanted to really get a flag on that. All the offensive linemen did their job knowing he's going to get the ball out of his hands pretty quick. But that was the key. In the red zone today, he got the ball out of his hands quick. That was the biggest difference of last year's red zone debacle for Kevin O'Connell. He realized, like, there's no reason to run double moves. Let me just let my like the Justin Jefferson fade route, let my stars make the plays.
Luke, you watched all the film on JJ from Michigan coming out of college. Compared to the first two games that we saw from JJ McCarthy, big gap now. Obviously, thought we were going to get him back after the bye. We didn't. A couple more games go by. What was the biggest difference, I guess, that you saw? Not just JJ McCarthy, but to Ron's point, KOC's play calling, if any.
Yeah, there was a lot more quick stuff. It was a lot less, I think, kind of over-engineered, Rube Goldberg machine kind of plays. And that definitely helped. But I think he got a lot more help. There was still quite a bit of pressure from the O-line, but that pressure was not nearly as fast, at least not to my eye. Having Addison healthy, Darisaw healthy, like we've never seen that. And I think the circumstances that hurt him in the first two games were something that went way under discussed when we had all of those breathless and tedious conversations over the last 2 months about what JJ McCarthy can do on this offense. This is the closest thing we saw to what the Vikings intended going into the year. This is the closest we got. And we still, had Aaron Jones getting hurt and stuff, and all of that will happen. Still have a third string center. Like that's that. But just a reasonable offense, and then you can kind of see that those throws would come out. But here's the thing that sticks with me is there were a couple of passes that were like lobby touch passes that were beautiful. And at Michigan, he never did that. He never even tried it. And if he did try to throw like a big deep go ball, he would spray him everywhere. But the fact that the game was iced on like a touchy fade ball that requires a whole bunch of finesse and hangs in the air, and it was in the bucket, I think is such a huge thing to build on and an improvement over what we had seen in college, and shows that, lo and behold, the 22-year-old quarterback is improving week over week.
Yeah, there's a widely held belief if you're a new business, you just want to make as much revenue as you can. Worry about the costs later. You'll figure out how to be more efficient. You'll figure out how to cut costs and liabilities. Just make as much money as you can. So with a new quarterback, JJ McCarthy, there's so much revenue, quote unquote. There's so many good things that we're seeing on this tape. Now, there's a lot of costs as well. There's a lot of rookie stuff. Turning the wrong way on handoffs. Throwing on the run behind receivers a couple times, right? Running out of bounds on that final 3rd and goal when you wanted to keep the clock running. A lot of rookie stuff. But the high end, when you see what he can do, the high end, the escapability, knowing where to get away from pressure. A couple of high-level throws that were incomplete. He had a throw early on to Jordan Addison that was off his hands, would have been a touchdown. The overturned call that Justin Jefferson caught, which I think was the wrong call, unbelievable throw on 3rd down. And there were a number of other great ones as well, including the touchdown to Jefferson, the long kind of improv pass downfield to Addison. He had to come back for the ball a little bit, but that was a high-level play. So some really high-level stuff. Iron out some of those inefficiencies, some of the poor decision-making, just simple stuff like receiving the snap and turning the right way. But we saw some very high-level glimpses, much like we did in the Chicago game, which is enough to get excited for the weeks going forward. Knock on wood if he can stay healthy.
Ron, let's get into the biggest turning points from today. I mean, you could go with the blocked field goal with 6 and change left. I want to say in the fourth quarter, you're up 7. That was obviously a monster turning point. You might just go with the final throw of the game. JJ McCarthy puts it exactly where he needs to. Jalen Nailor with the great catch. What, I guess, comes to the top of your mind as far as biggest turning points in this one? Because it feels like there's a lot of big key plays, but as far as biggest turning point, what are you going to go with?
I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson's touchdown. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I got extremely excited about McCarthy being able to make that throw into the bucket. Like, I think a lot of people question his red zone ability. I think people question Kevin O'Connell's red zone calls coming into this game. I mean, again, red zone, I think 3 times last year, 11 times in that Lions game, and he only had like 1 positive play and 2 plays you can kind of maybe blame on the quarterback. But 3 for 11, as far as just like nothing going, no positivity, just like, what are you doing? And then to come out the gate and say, you know what, y'all, I heard y'all. Watch this. And JJ McCarthy just throws a perfect dime. There was no trickery. There was no like, let me show you this and I'm gonna do it. Was just my guy's better than your guy. JJ make the throw, and JJ makes a perfect throw. Justin Jefferson makes a great one-handed kind of grab and pulls it in and gets the 2 feet in. For me, I think that was a confidence boost for him, the coaches, and the rest of the team. That felt like a turning point to me, where even the Lions were like, oh, okay, we probably didn't think this through about this McCarthy kid. And he made the throw.
Luke, you got an Aaron Jones update for us. What do you got?
Yeah, from Tom Pelissero, suffered an AC joint sprain. Belief is that it is minor. He believes he'll be able to play next week. Kevin O'Connell also said that they'll do a little more testing on it.
So good when healthy. So good when he's on the field, and 100%. Just has trouble, obviously, staying healthy. A biggest turning point for you, Luke, or maybe one key play that really sticks out?
Yeah, so I actually went to the win probability graph for this because there were so many wild moments. The fumble that Harrison Smith picked up, I think it was Cashman that knocked that out. That really felt like, you had them backed up, and then they get this big run play. And doesn't that always feel like it's the start of a 15-play drive? But nope, we're just going to knock that thing out. And then suddenly Vikings in the red zone, they're going to score as long as they don't turn the ball over. They're already in kicking range. And sure enough, they would kick a field goal that turned out to be decisive. But, the block kick was a big one. But from a win probability angle, because the Lions were favored so much, it didn't actually cross over to the Vikings side, and I think there's some meaning behind this, until the second half, 3 and out, that started the second half for the Lions. And there was something to that of just saying, like, okay, this is like the fourth one of these. They've clearly figured something out, and it's not just, some fluky, that little gimmick that the Lions are going to be able to solve. No, they came out of halftime, and whatever they did still can't figure out how to keep Jared Goff upright, and we're going to get a ton of pressure, and the whole rest of the game is going to be like this. I mean, the Lions are a good team, and you knew they were going to fight that thing down to the end. I think any expectation of beating the Lions by 2 scores and not giving up that Jameson Williams touchdown at the end, probably too high an expectation, but that was a moment for me where I was like, okay, they've got this. They've got a plan that works here, and let's see if they can actually convert it.
And one thing, sorry, before I get out of here, though, Luke, I want to say this too. The other turning point for me was this morning when I saw the injury report. Like when I saw that they were going to have both offensive tackles,
good point.
And they were going to get Andrew Van Ginkel back. I mean, Dallas Turner, nothing against him, but Gink, it's just a different defense when he's on the field. And those tackles keeping JJ McCarthy. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson got a couple little hits on him, but it felt like for the most part, Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill did a great job out there. So again, this week of, like you said, Aaron Jones, making sure he's healthy for this one because he is a difference maker. I mean, him versus Mason, I don't think it's even questionable who's a better, going to get you more chunk yards. But that also, the injury report for me was huge to see no big names on the injury report last minute before I get out of here. So
Ron Johnson, check him out on X at 3 Ron Johnson. Check him out every Tuesday on the Ron Johnson Show. Thanks a lot, Ron. Sam, biggest turning point from this?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. How about the sequence following the inexplicable Jonathan Grenard offside penalty? You've got Detroit 4th and 5. I have no doubt that they could have easily converted that. They did it all day. But to jump off sides and gift it to them for free at 24-17, I mean, you're thinking about Dan Campbell scoring a touchdown, going for 2, and, losing this game 25-24 or some garbage like that. So Grenard gives them the first down. After that, you bottle up Gibbs on first down. You bottle up somebody else on second down. It was a great open field tackle.
There was a Goff hit as he throws one hopper in there on first down.
Okay, first down was the incompletion.
Yeah.
Then you bottled up Gibbs. Thank you. Then there was a penalty. Then 3rd and 14, you sack Goff, I think for the 5th time in the game. So you went from Detroit 1st and 10, 14-yard line. You pushed them back out of chip shot range where that was like a legitimate field goal that Jake Bates had to concentrate on and lift the ball up. And tremendous job. They kept trying to give the block to Williams on the broadcast, but it was actually Levi Drake Rodriguez who had the initial block. They both had their hands up, and it was a very low kick. But credit Isaiah Rodgers too for picking up that ball on the hop. That's not easy to do. And then the return he did get, even though we're upset he got caught by the kicker, the return he did get assured the Vikings of a field goal try, which I know we'll probably get into coach's corner. We'll be upset about the play calling down there. I get it. But the most important thing in that sequence was coming away with points. and going up by 10 at that juncture of the game, that clinched it. And it felt like it was completely going pear-shaped after that Grenard offside. So that whole sequence totally turned what I think was setting up to be a gut-wrenching loss, turned it all the way back in the Vikings' favor.
And that's just one drive, Sam. That's just one small piece to this puzzle. I already want to go back and rewatch this game. That's how crazy this one was. I want to go back to what Ron kind of ended on just real quick, because the big names the Vikings got back and the impact they made. I know we kind of touched on Andrew Van Ginkel, his long-awaited return, but Darisaw and O'Neal playing together. Injuries have just been, unfortunately, it's been a major talking point with this team this year, and have really kind of poked some holes with the lack of depth on this roster. When I think about this game and just dumb it all down to the cliches like turnovers, but winning the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, we've given the defensive line in the front seven and Brian Flores their flowers, but I mean, 142 yards rushing for the Vikings to 65 for the Lions in Detroit. Not something I don't think anybody saw coming. What kind of returns or gains did you guys see? And also, I think we got to give a shout out to Blake Brandel as well. Just, again, not a flawless game at center, but for coming in and spot duty and filling in for the big shoes of Ryan Kelly. All in all, I thought his play was above average as well. Returns, gains, what'd you see, I guess, and as far as impacts go with the big three names that we got today?
Yeah, I definitely owe a public apology to Javon Hargrave. I've been going at him real hard the last few weeks. And I mean, he did get benched. Like, he did get pulled out of the lineup on a Thursday night, but he played a lot more of this game. So maybe that was just an injury that we didn't know about or something, or some kind of, load management for an old guy or something. But he came back to the lineup with authority and had a huge role in how well the Vikings played against the run, splitting double teams instead of getting sledded back. Like, a huge improvement on the game of Javon Hargrave that had those like ripple effects that cascade everywhere. And then suddenly the linebackers look great because the defensive tackle isn't getting blown into next week by a double team.
He got 39 snaps in the game. We have snap counts, which is nice as well. 39 snaps, three pressures, and five stops as well as a tackler.
Yeah, and made the play himself a few times and gets a sack as well on a contain rush. So great game.
Yeah, I will say, and let's take a look and see what damage Hutchinson did in the game. 5 pressures. He got
and
his
a leg whip. He got a little leg whip in there.
Yeah,
got a little kick to the knee. Not a bite to the kneecap, but a kick to the kneecap. And then there was another. Yeah, I felt bad on the other roughing the passer call, which the Anthony Barr rule benefited the Vikings there.
Was that the Jack Campbell one? Or are you talking
the Campbell one. The Campbell one where he just fell on top of him. But I was going to say that in terms of pressures allowed in like traditional pockets, I thought the Vikings offensive line held up really well. Like, a lot of those sacks came when J.J. McCarthy didn't get to his first read, was trying to flee, was trying to extend the play. And you can't really be too bothered when the defense gets home in those situations. Christian Darisaw didn't allow a pressure. Brian O'Neal allowed 3. He also had a massive pancake block on a screen early in the game to Aaron Jones. I thought the interior, though, of the offensive line might have had its best game. They ran it at an efficient clip. I was really enthused by the team looking healthier and playing really physically. They've now played 2 division rivals and out-physicaled both of them. They kicked the Bears' butt in the fourth quarter in Chicago, and I think they out-physicaled the Lions. How many teams do that? Not many. And and maybe it just seems that way because of how it seemed like the Lions were banged up every other play, and we're not rooting for them to get hurt. But the Vikings were the ones that were the aggressor. They were pushing them back most of the time today.
Yeah, I think it's such a good point, Sam, because our bar was so low for what we saw with JJ being under pressure, right? So many bullets flying in his face with that Falcon game all the way back in week 2. It's like, oh man, this offensive line played really good compared to our expectations. But no, they played really good versus one of the most physical trenches on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. And I say that just kind of passing the eye test fresh after this one before I rewatch it, but also just looking at some of these numbers again, almost outgaining them on the ground by almost triple digits. Plenty more to get into. What we loved, what we hated, plus Coach's Corner. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, this episode brought to us by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep as early as tomorrow with over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Plus, the real-time inventory and honest lead times help keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind sign covered. What I love the most is their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support. They make the whole process smoother, faster, and easier than anyone else around. Join the free Trademaster program today. Score all the perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com today. Sign up for free and use the promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, just real quick, Coach's Corner, just because you brought it up, Sam, kind of got me thinking. I'm curious, first and foremost, what you guys think, just from a coach's lens tonight, whether that's KOC or Brian Flores, because both guys coming into this game at Ford Field, obviously, were under the microscope. What exactly was it for you guys? Play calling, halftime adjustments, pre-snap alignments, whatever it may be. What stuck out the most from either one of these coaches today?
Yeah, I mean, I usually lean toward the gripes that I have in terms of clock management. That's just where my mind first goes. So we can talk about, and there's a lot of good stuff tactically that happened today, a lot of it on defense. But we can go to the end of the game where it's 24-17. And I think, Luke's, your priority, I think KOC got the priority wrong. I think the priority was to run 3 plays inbounds. If you score, great. You're up 2 touchdowns. If you don't score, you're forcing a timeout or you're forcing the clock to move. You had the ball, first and goal at the 1. Okay, you tried the run, and you got stuffed. You lost a yard. Okay, there are still ways to, I think, run a couple more plays without throwing incompletions, without running yourself out of bounds. And I think that's part of that's McCarthy. McCarthy's got to be...
He's got to get down there. He can't fight for more.
Yeah, you've got throw
take
it
your sack.
If it is a high percentage throw. It was not. It was actually a dangerous throw because it was an out-breaking Jefferson toward the pylon. If Arnold cuts that thing a little better, maybe he's got an interception, and then you're really in trouble. But then he's got to lay down at the 4-yard line on that 3rd down play. So part of that is your quarterback's awareness. Maybe got a little too cute. They tried the bootleg, which is kind of how they scored against Chicago in that week 1 game with McCarthy using his legs. Didn't work this time. So that could have burned you, right? If you don't complete that pass to Naylor, this is probably the biggest discussion point that we have, that KOC's goal line play calling again in Detroit comes back to bite the Vikings.
Yeah, I think I put more of it on McCarthy than O'Connell, because calling a little out route is fine. McCarthy just has to progress on that. He just shouldn't. That was covered. You just should have progressed. And he has to understand in both situations that taking a sack and keeping the clock moving is actually okay, going against every instinct you have in the red zone. But I want to take it to something tactical. About attacking Aiden Hutchinson. They had a really similar plan for Aiden Hutchinson that they had for TJ Watt, which was, understanding he's going to get his pressures. But a lot of the play designs were basically meant to get Aiden Hutchinson to run himself out of the play. He's a very tenacious player, high motor kind of guy, right? But if you notice that a lot of the best runs that happened seemed to cut back, was always a cutback lane. Those were all Aiden Hutchinson leaving too much space and essentially going at the quarterback in case it's a bootleg all the time. And just using that little bit of a decoy. It's not like he was running all the way off the field or anything like that, but it gave just enough space for Aaron Jones and a little bit Jordan Mason to find those big cutback lanes and find all that room. And I think that was a huge win in the run from a game plan perspective, is to just say, hey, let's just make sure we're on our P's and Q's about our cutback lane, run away from Aiden Hutchinson, and sort of take advantage of the fact that he is going to be a little undisciplined on the back end. And teams have done that to the Lions a lot. And a lot of the times when the Lions struggle in run defense, it's because of that. And it's just worth it for them because he does so much in the pass rush. But there is an opening there. And I'm glad that they found it this time.
What we loved, what we hated, stock up, stock down. Let's just kind of all blend it together here. I got to give some flowers to one guy that we haven't mentioned, because every time you think about him, you think about Xavier Thomas. But Miles Price, he might be a guy. Opens the game with that 61-yard kickoff return. That kind of set up JJ McCarthy with that short field. But Miles Price continues. I mean, we're 7-8 games into the season now, 8 games into the season, and Miles Price, for being one of the biggest question marks for the Vikings going into week 1, was like, what's going on with our return situation this year? Miles Price has stepped up in a big way. Any other big winners that we haven't already mentioned?
Fabian Moreau getting some time, which doesn't speak well.
He's a guy.
Dwight McGlothern. Fabian Moreau played 20. He was CB3 in this game.
Oh my god, I didn't even notice.
Played 23 snaps, and he was
a good thing for
invisible.
corner, right?
Yeah, I think it's
I
good
guess,
when you're not
good for him.
when you're not seen. It alarms me. It alarms me that you have to activate a practice squad guy as your CB3 after one injury. That you can't even trust the guy that is on the roster. You have to call up. You got one in reserve, and you can't trust him.
If only someone were talking about this all off season.
Trade deadline is in 2 days. We'll see if they do something about it. How about Jordan Mason? Normally good in pass pro, just obliterated by Jack Campbell on a blitz. I wrote that one down.
How about Eric Wilson? I know it's kind of obvious.
Oh yeah,
but
great game for Eric
This
Wilson.
is a dude who, again, I mean, think about how much trouble the linebacking unit was having with that Ivan Pace, Blake Cashman kind of duo back there the first couple of weeks, just getting gashed. I keep thinking back to that Atlanta game specifically. Eric Wilson comes in by force of injury, right? And all he's done is just continue to make plays. I'm not calling him a Roquan Smith, an all-pro, but to fill in like that, I mean, on a Vikings roster that, again, doesn't have a lot of great depth, it's very top-heavy, like we talked about all offseason, Eric Wilson continues to make plays, and it feels like to this point, kind of no question about it, he has earned this kind of starting role now over Ivan Pace.
I still miss Ivan Pace in a lot of those situations. And a lot of those blitzes were Pace being the sacrificial guy. And one of the things he does the best is blitz from depth and blow up a lineman. It's too slow to ever get to the quarterback, but it's great for stunts. Yeah. And that was a good role for him. But you can't argue with the day that Eric Wilson had. I want to shout out Levi Drake Rodriguez. The chat's been on it too. He was the one that blocks the kick. I don't know what Kevin Burkhardt was looking at. It was not Elijah Williams. It was
that was Brady's fault too. Brady was saying the wrong guy. Yeah. He also said Chaz Chambliss had the block, who was not on the field.
The broadcast was not on it. And you know what, Kevin Burkhardt, you had an interesting night. You had a long one and a flight. I excuse that. But they were also wrong about a lot of penalty calls. And then they made and when the broadcast is wrong, a lot of people get that that's their opinion now. And it's well, you just made a whole bunch of people wrong about a catch that clearly wasn't I don't know. But I'll excuse that. Kevin Burkhardt was busy. But anyways, Levi Drake Rodriguez getting that blocked kick, getting a couple of big moments as well. He always just has that. He'll play 10 snaps and 3 of them matter a lot. And that's a great clip for a rotational D tackle.
I don't think we brought up the huge forced fumble by Blake Cashman when Detroit was about to run for a first down on 3rd and double digits. Cashman comes up with that. You have not been able to take the ball away at all this year. So getting one just felt like a huge win. And then the blocked field goal kind of feels like a takeaway as well. So those two plays, both second half, felt massive for the Vikes.
How about Harrison Smith, the wily veteran, waiting for that third bounce before
He knows.
that extra beat where maybe a rookie would get a little trigger happy and try to scoop that thing up, but that was something that I thought in the moment was pretty funny. We mention his name every week, but Jalen Redmond just continuing to ball out as well. They found a dude with Jalen Redmond.
Yeah.
The 61 back there. And again, I know we kind of bring him up every week. I don't want to overshadow him or just kind of, move past him just because we continue to bring him up. He continues, though, to be a force in the middle.
Yeah, there's something to be said for setting a new expectation for yourself. And now it's less interesting because he met that new expectation. But that expectation is playing as a really good starting player.
No
yeah,
doubt.
he's on pace for like 8 sacks this season. That's the season we expected from an Allen or a Hargrave. But you might get it from Jalen Redmond. And I still maintain that this is why the Harrison Phillips trade happened. You knew you
It
could
was
not
Redmond for sure. Yeah.
And just by process of elimination, you were not going to demote Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, the guys that you just signed to huge money. So it had to be Harrison Phillips, not really a knock on Phillips, just kind of a team, a tough GM decision that I think had to be made.
It is funny because they did end up demoting Javon Hargrave later, but hey, he got his redemption today. So
well, I was just going to say, in a game like this, we're going to have a lot of winners. We're going to shower a lot of guys with love, but 4 guys that we've talked about in a highlight, Javon Hargrave, LDR, Jalen Redmond, and Sam, I think you mentioned Jonathan Allen with 5 pressures today as well. So a lot of defensive linemen coming up huge again. One of the big key reasons the Lions struggled in the trenches today. Don't go anywhere. What we'll be talking about tomorrow, that's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode also brought to us by FanDuel. The NFL season, it's here. FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with this can't-miss offer right now. New customers, bet just $5. If your bet wins, you're getting a ridiculous $300 in bonus bets guaranteed. Why I love FanDuel. They got everything. Player props, same game parlay, jumping in live as the action unfolds. That's my personal favorite. You name it, they got it. It's so quick. It's so easy, and it is the best way to add a little bit more enthusiasm, a little bit more excitement, a little bit more juice to your Sundays. Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app. Go visit FanDuel.com today to get started. That's FanDuel.com. You're getting $300 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. All right, two more key things I want to hit on. Game MVP and what we'll be talking about tomorrow morning. Let's start with that one first. What's the A topic? Once we let the dust settle, things are always a little emotional, a little raw right after these games. But once we take the emotions out of the equation, what is the biggest talking point after what we just watched unfold? Luke Braun.
Well, it's pretty clearly how the Vikings are going to need to solve their quarterback issue by trading for Kirk Cousins.
100%.
I mean, the trade deadline's coming up.
Yeah,
it's going to be that McCarthy had a good game.
Yeah.
It makes the Atlanta game feel like it was 900 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about all week. It's what we're excited about. Looking forward to watching him develop. If I actually try to nail down an MVP from this game, this just speaks to how much of a team win it was. Mike Zimmer loved to talk about the team win. Kevin O'Connell likes to talk about the team win because nobody really jumps off the page and you say, "Oh, this was the fill in the blank game." I mean, Eric Wilson has as much claim to the MVP of this
Isaiah
game
Rodgers game
as right. There was not one player that stood out so much. It was Aaron Jones on the ground. TJ Hawkinson caught a touchdown, repping the tight ends. Jalen Naylor, the game-winning catch. Addison had a good run. Justin Jefferson had a one-handed catch. Go across the board. Your safeties contributed. Interior linebackers. The cornerbacks, still trying to figure out what they did. They weren't terrible today. They allowed some of those yards that you expect them to allow when you're blitzing so much. Got burned a couple times one-on-one. But honestly, across the board, special teams, give everyone a game ball except Javier Thomas, and I'm good with that.
I
They
think
got to
if I
clean
had
up
to-
that special teams penalty stuff. I mean, it's been a plague all year long. But there were so many of if we lose, we have 10 different moments to complain about, from the clock management thing, the special teams penalties, to giving up that touchdown over Isaiah Rodgers to Jamison Williams at the end. Like there are a lot of things that the Vikings still need to go fix, but considering what this game was, maybe the hardest game on your schedule on the road in Detroit. To fight through that and find enough explosiveness and enough good stuff, much of which was on the back of your quarterback. It's real hard not to feel like this is a turning point for the whole season.
This felt like the 49ers game in 23. Remember that? The Vikings said they were 2-4. The Niners were coming off the Super Bowl or they were headed toward the Super Bowl. They were coming off of a great season.
NFC Championship. They got 38-7 by the Eagles in the NFC Championship. Yeah.
Oh, okay. When Purdy got
five
hurt. So they come in.
Yeah.
And they won that game to get that season back on track. And it might have stayed on track if Kirk Cousins had stayed healthy. But let's not forget what Detroit does to teams in that building routinely. Like they beat the Bears, who are actually looking to be a decent team this year, 52-21. They beat the Browns 34-10. They beat the Bucks, good Bucks team, 24-9.
Like a contending Bucks team, and they put them in the dirt. So figuring that out is a big win.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to look ahead too much. Obviously, we'll do that tomorrow, but trade deadline is on Tuesday. I'm sure, again, we'll deep dive this conversation a little bit more tomorrow. But just as you watch this game, is it as simple as you got to go target a cornerback? Is there anything else, maybe some more layers to this scheme that I'm missing here? Any other positions maybe as that you wake up tomorrow, you say, we got to go figure this out. Again, I thought Blake Brandel, his third, maybe fourth game at center, when you think about some spot duty when Ryan Kelly got hurt. But cornerback seems to be kind of the biggest priority of need. We've talked about Tariq Woolen, but any other kind of pressing needs around this football team right now, given injuries or just the current play of the starters in depth?
I would just quickly mention, if you were worried about Justin Jefferson, he was cramping. He did have pickle juice on the sideline. If anybody missed that, that was there. I still kind of
pickle
think
juice. Stock up, by the way. Pickle juice.
Yeah,
stock up.
Clutch. I still kind of think that the trade deadline in the NFL is not the trade deadline in the NBA. There's not, the contenders that trade for all the players off of the non-contenders who are selling their players. That's not how it works in the NFL ever. It's more about individual player situations. So if I'm looking at the trade deadline, I'm looking at, for example, in the Vikings, someone like Ivan Pace, who has been demoted, who was maybe in line for some money, who still maybe could get some money from someone, but maybe it won't be the Vikings. And somebody wants to give the Vikings a draft pick for the right to negotiate that. I could see something like that happen. It doesn't mean the Vikings are cutting the engines on the season. It's just the way those situations go. And that's how, the Vikings got somebody like TJ Hawkinson off of the Lions with a very similar logic in a year that was very much still alive for Detroit in 22 when the trade deadline came around. So that's what it looks like to me as I'm looking at those situations. I was looking at Hargrave before this game. I think that put a lot of that to bed. But it's you got to find the tradable guys, the guys that, maybe you can get a draft pick without losing much for your season right now, because it's just too early for anybody to cut the engines. Even if you're 3-6, you could go on a 5-game winning streak and get it back. Like that kind of thing happens all the time. We just saw Kevin O'Connell in a game that he was down 27 with like 4 minutes to go. Yeah, we didn't think it was over. We put Wentz back out there. Like, they don't give up.
Yeah, I'm torn on whether I think it's even a good idea, unless you're really splashing for a Tariq Woolen.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty splashy.
Fixing a long-term and a short-term issue. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that would even be a rental still, like 1 year of Woolen and then maybe the chance to re-sign him in the offseason. But are you going to upgrade on Fabian Moreau as your primary depth? Okuda's had 2 concussions. A lot of times that means multiple weeks for the second time around, so they could be going back to the Fabian Moreau. Well, we could see Dwight McGlothern on the field. The depth is bad. So do you just need a warm body? Do you need to really give up assets for that? Could you find someone off the street? Could you beg our guy Stephon Gilmore to come back? Is he is he doing anything? Is Asante Samuel finally recovered yet? Like it seems difficult to bring in a corner that and expect them to play a lot in a brand new scheme unless that person's already familiar. So I don't know if it's realistic to say, oh yeah, go get like a real good CB3, because you're talking about 20, 25 snaps a game. You can probably patch that together with a Moreau. It's just concerning that what if you lose someone else though? what if you do lose a Murphy? Then where are you? Well,
Mhm.
you're in a really bad place.
Just looking at a quick snapshot of the divisions, Vikings still in last place at 4-4, but 2-0 in the division, which is crazy to say when you think about just how this season has gone. But Green Bay Packers lose in Lambeau today to the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, the Lions lost, and the Chicago Bears win on the, I guess, final seconds, you'd call it. Caleb Williams to Colston Loveland. When you think about this division now, after this game, things just got so much more muddled, it feels like. Not a huge separator from one team to the next, top to bottom, 1-4. Sam, what's your kind of thoughts as we're at the halfway point now? Is this kind of how you saw things kind of, coming to fruition, I guess, 9 weeks into the season, I should say?
Yeah. I think if the Vikings were one game better, I think you would say they were right on track. It's getting to be a tough schedule now. You've stolen a game you didn't expect to win. You also dropped a game in week 2 you expected to win. You probably hoped to beat Pittsburgh, right? And then the Chargers game was always going to be a toss-up that went very badly. You're a little behind where you want to be, but maybe this is a turning point for the season. The Ravens will not be an easy game, right? I mean, any division game going forward, and you have 4 of them left, will not be an easy game. You've got a lot of tough games left on the schedule. So I think this division is going to, like, everyone's going to cannibalize each other, right? There's going to be, the Bears are going to beat some teams. The Packers are certainly equipped to beat the Lions, as they did in week 1. So I think the Vikings putting extra emphasis on these division games and seeming to bring their best on these days is really important to see. And it's anybody's division at this point. The Packers have a 1.5 lead, but the Vikings have them twice and every chance to catch up.
That tie is really going to come into play at the end.
It's going to be
isn't it,
interesting,
for the Packers, for sure.
The division is currently 3 5-win teams and the 4-win Vikings. It's anybody's game right now. Yeah. So that is that what we expect? I mean, some people kind of expected that. That's not that far off of what the division was at this time last year. And the Bears fell off, and the Packers kind of tried to keep pace, and the Vikings tried to keep pace, and ultimately the Lions took it right at the end. But it was always going to be competitive. At 4-4, you're in it, right? And I still think that the mentality for the Vikings is internal. This is about the Vikings figuring out who they are, who they can be, and how they can win games. I'm still not to a scoreboard watching place with them yet until I see a little more consistency, and then we can start going, ooh, what are the scenarios? But not till after Thanksgiving, really.
Nice that the Vikings get to come back home at the bank for 2 in a row. Again, Baltimore, we'll preview that game tomorrow a little bit, and then another division game, actually 2 more division games, at home versus the Bears, and then at Lambeau. That's November 23rd. Couple minutes left here. Just kind of replaying some just crazy plays. How about the reviews? Justin Jefferson, I thought, kind of got robbed on a catch there. I thought that was a clean catch. And then the Jalen Naylor, Terrion Arnold interception, I thought that one hit the ground as well. Am I way off there, or your thoughts on either of those plays? And then any other just kind of fun plays that stuck out in a wild shootout today?
I agreed with the interception by Arnold. I didn't see conclusively hitting the ground. Thought that he held on, trapped, had control of it. Ball is allowed to hit the ground if you're controlling it. And I thought that rule should have applied to the Jefferson catch. I didn't see a good view.
I thought I saw the laces move when it hit the ground. I thought it rolled a little.
Okay. And maybe they didn't give us the best slowed down angle or freeze frame. I thought that one could have stood up. Tough break on the interception, but yeah, if it had Naylor kept trapping it against his leg, I think that probably is tied to the receiver, but he did let up his grip, allowed Arnold to get control, then tried to get back in to the jump ball, if you will, but I think the officials saw through that. So I 1 for 1, I think they went on those reviews.
Yeah, I went. So not to say I'm so good at predicting, but what I thought happened was the call on both of those, which makes it really hard for me to be bad call, because I don't know, that's what I would have called before I knew what the call was. With the Terrion Arnold one, a lot of people are saying well, he trapped it against his leg and then his knee hit the ground, and it's you got to have it through the whole process there. So if at any time that ball comes away and you lose possession of it, just because you get your hand back in there again, you lost the goodwill that you got from trapping the ball against your leg there. That was just a ball that was behind him, and I do think it was just too much of an opportunity for the D-back to get in there. And so I give them that. And then, yeah, to me, it looked like with the Jefferson one, the laces moved when it hit the ground. And so I stopped looking at anything. I was like, oh, well, they're going to overturn that. And I got up and did something else. And I came back and found everybody was just irate about it. So, which I guess I don't really get. The laces moved on the ground, man. The ball moved. That didn't happen with the Arnold one.
Vikings pull off the monster upset. KOC wins at Ford Field for the first time. J.J. McCarthy, ice in his veins, seals it at the end. 27-24, that's your final. And now the NFC North feels very, very wide open. Huge shout out to all you guys, all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game. Check out Ron every Tuesday in the Ron Johnson Show. Luke Braun always doing big things over on Locked On Vikings. He's got all your daily content. Like and subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Another episode, breaking it all down with that guy, Sam Ekstrom, hosting. Until then, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.